You do when you've done all you can, and it seems like it's never enough. Tell me, what do you say when your friends turn away and you're all alone? Tell me, what do you give when you...
And I know Tom was inspired everybody with song because he was getting up already, so he got him out of his chair. And I know he needs
to old and decrepit. Slow, but I still do.
Amen. We could talk all day about his background.
Well,
who he is and what he is, from railroad poetry to an outstanding lawyer, to somebody. I remember, I was telling him a few days ago, I remember him when he used to speak at Bethel for Lou Palmer. That's right. He's spoken all over the world. And many times we would bump heads and traveling on flights. I'd be flying somewhere and he'd be flying somewhere. And you know, doggone Tom, we ended up with, didn't even know if we catch the flights back home together. Didn't even know we were. But he has, you know, he is a renowned, outstanding orator, gifted person, loves his community. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big round of welcome to Attorney Thomas N. Todd.
Bless him.
Amen.
Man.
Well, speak the truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Free the people's mind with truth. If there is no truth, there can be no freedom. I am so pleased and honored to share this special day with you, with so many special people from my past and my present. Sometimes you can tell what an organization thinks of you by the person they choose to introduce you. I appreciate my brother Lou Myers for introducing me, and we work together and will work together in the future. Give Lou Myers another round of applause for his willingness and for his bravery in standing here and talking about his personal episode. Well, to Pastor Jakes and to the members and officers of New Tabernacle of Faith, it's about push people. It's not all about push people, stand up. People out of the funny for you were there too, as a matter of fact. Give them a round of applause too. So good to see all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Brother Don Smith, who has been with me from the Chicago State days. Don Smith, thank you. But when we talk about violence, just stay with me for a little while. Domestic violence or international violence or what have you, where somebody is violated because somebody else decides that they want to torture them or beat them. It is not pretty and it is unfortunate, but it's true.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm glad to hear people testify about domestic violence. It's hard and difficult because it's in the home. That's right. It's a family members.
Yes.
But violence is violence and torture is torture, and we've got to call it out for what it is. When I look at where we are today, and I hear all of the discussion about sanctuary cities and sanctuary towns and sanctuary. I said to Pastor Jakes and to Attorney Lou Myers, we need to deal with the issue of sanctuary. We need to deal with the issue in our own community, not internationally, but in our own community. And so when I look at Chicago and I look at the nation, I see contrast and conflict, contradiction and confusion. But we are still a person and people somewhere between, still not free. We go around and around and around, confusing movement with progress. us.
Speak it.
We're there, yet we're ignored. We're there, yet we are taken for granted. We're there, yet we are not provided for. And so I thought about this as I watched all of this mess, Monica, with all of these monuments. I'm from Alabama, or what we call L.A., Lower Alabama. And I was raised with these Confederate monuments. But again, a movement to deal with moving stones and symbols, that's okay, and I'm not putting that down.
All right.
It's important if that's what you want to do. But I am concerned today about other kinds of things.
All right.
And if you are going to deal with the monuments, and you're going to deal with circumstances, deal with the full truth.
Yes,
All right.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
You're going to deal with white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia, and deal with the white supremacists right here in Illinois, and especially in Springfield.
All right.
Now stay with me, because the way they deal with us, Pastor, is that they teach us a false history.
All right. All right.
And they buttress it with false news.
Yes, sir.
And they make us do everything that they want us to do. It's their game, they write the rules, and they keep the score.
My.
All right.
Yes.
Looks like you're going to play the game, they change the rules.
Yes, sir. That's it.
And then they change the game.
Well,
If you're going to deal with white racists, what about Abraham Lincoln?
Yes. Yes.
Black people have named their children after Lincoln, schools after Lincoln, but Abraham Lincoln, out of his own mouth, was a white racist. In his debate with Stephen Douglas in 1858, he said, "I am not now, nor have I ever been in favor of bringing about anything social and political equality between the white and the black race." He said, "There's a physical difference between us." This is Abraham Lincoln. I didn't write this.
that's right.
He said, "As long as both races remain in the United States, there must be a position of superior and inferior, and I am, as any other man, in favor of assigning the superior position to the white race."
Wow.
I didn't write this. But if you're going to deal with white racism and you're going to deal with monuments, tell the full truth.
All right.
Don't just tell us a little part of it. Tell the whole story.
Yes.
When I look at where we are as a people, and I look at all of this brouhaha about refugees, what is a refugee? A refugee is simply a person who leaves a foreign country. I'm going to teach today.
Go ahead.
Because of persecution and violence in bondage. What is sanctuary? Sanctuary simply is a place of safety. Now you hear about the politics and you hear about all of this now, but sanctuary was around a long time before they decided to adopt sanctuary city status or decided to adopt sanctuary states. And refugees have been around a long time. A political refugee is a person like from Syria, but they said that the Haitians were economic refugees. When they got to America, they sent them back because they said they were economic refugees and not political refugees. But yet when the Cubans came, they allowed them to stay on a path to citizenship. I just want the full story to be told. I don't want us to be misled by it, and I'm not opposed to that. That's Abraham Lincoln was in favor of sending blacks back to Africa. In Cincinnati in 1800, all blacks in Cincinnati were sent to Canada. Reverse refugees. So you can't discuss the refugee problem without talking about the history of how blacks have figured in. But it's done every day. And so we decided that we would bring the issue to the forefront of domestic refugees. People who live in this country, who pay taxes in this country, who are citizens of this country, are afraid to go to the grocery store, are afraid to go to the barber shop, afraid to sit on their own porches and let their children play in their own yards. They are trapped in violence and carnage. Why aren't they dealt with the way they are being looked at from different circumstances? Lou, why aren't there billions of dollars being spent to keep them safe, to take them to a safe place, to a sanctuary?
That's right.
Domestic refugees. And yet I don't hear the mayor, I don't hear the governor, I don't hear anybody talking about a plan to take care of these domestic refugees. Well, Pastor Jakes, march is not going to do any good. Yes, it will. You march to call attention to the problem. You march to demonstrate what is going on so that people will know what's happening. 54 years ago tomorrow, Dr. King marched. A. Philip Randolph marched. 250,000 in Washington, D.C., most of whom, the black people who marched, couldn't vote. All they could do was march. And so they called attention to the world of what was going on with black people in all of the portions of this country. They called the attention to the President of the United States at that time, Lyndon Johnson. Say, don't tell me marches don't do any good. Don't tell me that you march and it's no good, that you need to be on Twitter or you need to be on Facebook. Yes, do that too, but march to bring attention to the problems that's going on in the community. After the March on Washington in 1964, the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed. After the March on Washington.
That's right.
In 1965, a year later, the Voter Rights Act was passed. So by marching today, all of you, I congratulate you, Pastor Jakes. I congratulate all of you for participating. By calling attention to the issue today, maybe the official Chicago, maybe the official Illinois, maybe the official United States will come up with a plan to help these people, tens of thousands of them, trapped in their own community as domestic refugees. No plan for them. But after today, maybe somebody, because the next step is that Pastor Jakes is going to take some of the domestic refugees to City Hall.
Please.
Take them to the state building,
That's it.
take them to the federal building, and said that we are citizens of the United States.
Yes,
We pay taxes.
yeah.
Why aren't you protecting us? I know you are policing, but what about the families that are left? What about Lou Myers? He didn't tell you that he comes home before 5 o'clock and he pulls the shades down so no one can see him. He is afraid of being shot.
That's right.
He's afraid of being killed. Why isn't something being done for the tens of thousands of people trapped in these circumstances? Somebody needs to ask that question. We're asking that question today. We need some answers.
Yes.
We need some. Well, I haven't seen it on NBC or ABC, or I haven't seen it on CNN. I haven't seen it. No, you have not seen it because nobody wants to deal with that issue. But we are affected by that issue. And so now, for the first time in a long time, we don't have to be spectators. Now listen to me, because you need to know the history. Not a single black person voted for the 13th Amendment. Monica, they couldn't vote. Or the 14th Amendment, they couldn't vote. 15th Amendment, they couldn't vote. We were spectators. We've been spectators working on somebody else's agenda. I like to say, Pastor, sometimes that we are spectators at our own parade, marching, being led by drum majors from somebody else's band, marching to somebody else's music.
My God.
So we initiate an issue, and we legitimatize an issue, and it doesn't become significant. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's what happened with Matthew Henson. He went to the North Pole 3 times before Admiral Perry. He gave Admiral Perry credit for discovering the North Pole. So why can't we raise our own issues? Why can't we use our resources for our own agenda? Things that are affecting black people and poor people and other people every day. Why can't we make the issue the issue?
Well,
they're not going to listen to you. They'll listen to you. They'll listen to us if we use the buck and the ballot. The buck and the ballot. The buck and the ballot. You got that?
Yes, sir.
I'm one man with one vote, with $1.
All right.
If you want my vote, then do something about this condition in our community.
yes.
If you want my patronage in your store, you want my buck, then do something about what's going on in our community. Then I can deal with it. We now have the resources. And you don't know what happens when you stand up. When they marched in Montgomery, to be able to sit down anywhere they wanted you on the bus. When they marched 380 some odd days, what they didn't realize was that black people represented 70% of the ridership of the Montgomery Transit Authority. My only problem with E.D. Nixon and Dr. King and Mrs. Parks is that they should not have settled for just riding in the front of the bus. If you're 70% of the ridership, you should own the bus company. And that's what we must do, using the buck and the ballot, to say to them, respond to us, or we're going to turn you out. They're arguing now, and there's nothing wrong. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not opposed to immigration dealing with Hispanics or Latinos or Asians. I'm not opposed to that. But what about us? Is it that they are not paying attention to us in Garfield Park and in Roseland and Inglewood, Austin? Is it because of the color of the skin of the population living there? These communities were created by discrimination and racism. Are they now ignoring us and neglecting us because of the same reason?
Well,
is it race, Pastor? We need to have those questions answered.
yes, sir.
We need to be able to put the question. But if you don't put the question to somebody, then nobody has to answer it.
All right.
But we'll do it. That's what this march was about. And for anybody who doesn't understand the relationship between this march and the march 54 years ago, go back and read your history. Go back and read it. And so we are saying today, and I'm through, that we are defining our issue. That issue is domestic refugees. That we are concerned about the tens of thousands of individuals who are left every day trying to live under these circumstances. Just trying to go to do anything and afraid of being killed and shot. Where is your plan for us? Where are you going to start, or when are you going to start to help us just live? Not all of them are poor. Not all of them are black. But in most of these neighborhoods, most of them are. I spoke a few months ago here at New Tabernacle about what I call creative selfishness. When you're on an airplane and the pilot says if you need oxygen, then you put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So that once you get the strength from the oxygen, you can then help somebody else. If you pass out because of a lack of oxygen, then you can't help anybody else. So creative selfishness is to help yourself so you can help somebody else. But in this refugee domestic problem that I am raising, there's another form of selfishness. It's called acceptable selfishness. It's where you help yourself so you can help yourself. Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because once you help somebody else and you help yourself, then you can help somebody else again. And so we have launched this domestic refugee movement.
Yes, sir.
We do it because the history is right. We do it because the elders are right. They said what goes around comes around. We do it because we know the history there. If you fight, you may lose. If you don't fight, you will lose. And so I leave you with 3 quotations.
Yes, sir.
My favorite today, and that's why we are here.
Yes, sir. Let's see.
Frederick Douglass
Let's see.
wrote, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. You may not get all that you pay for in this world, but you most certainly will pay for all that you get."
Yes, sir.
G. Woodson wrote, "It does not matter who is in power. Those who have not learned to provide for themselves and must depend upon others will have no more rights and privileges in the end than they had in the beginning." And of course, my favorite, listen to it, especially for the young people. When you got money, you got lots of friends. They all hang around your door. But when the money is gone and the good times end, they don't come around you anymore. Rich relations may give a crust of bread and such. You can help yourself, but you better not take too much. Your mama may have, your papa may have. Help me now, but God, that's the child. That's got his own. That's got his own domestic refugees and teachers.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give another big hand to Lieutenant Thomas. We want to give opportunity for some questions. It's not often that we have someone of his stature who has served as president of Operation Push and SCLC Chicago to come and served as U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney. Please, if there are any questions that you have, we ask that you would raise your hand and ask those questions. This is a good time to ask some questions.
I'm going to go sit down. Okay. You don't have any questions?
Okay. I see a question. Could you stand and just tell who you are and then go ahead on with your question? Monty Collins?
Yes.
All
And,
right.
and my question is this. I really like the part of creative selfishness. However, it continues to be interpreted as being anti-white. And how do you overcome that when you're in different spheres of life, whether you're a lawyer or corporate and any other facet of life? When you talk about creative selfishness, that's when you get a negative reaction from whites. And I just wanted to just hear some elder wisdom on how to get around that.
Well, the question is, I hope you heard the question. When you talk about creative selfishness, helping yourself so you can help others, I don't see how that creates any problem because you're helping others. Acceptable selfishness is where you help yourself so you can help yourself. Now, I'm from the deep south. I'm from Alabama. I didn't come to Chicago until I was in my 20s, almost 30. I lived in Jim Crow. I lived in the segregation. I went to all black schools. I never went to school with a person who was not black in my life, including law school. Including law school. And so I know that whole psychology of what happens. Incidentally, in the South at that time, the South was dominated by Democrats.
That's right.
Not Republicans. That's right. There were no Republicans. When I took a 2.5-hour literacy test in Mobile, Alabama in 1960 to interpret the due process clause of the 14th Amendment, it was administered by Democrats. George Wallace was a Democrat. So you put the whole situation together in terms of relationships. And so I'm not opposed to white people doing for white people for themselves, but don't be opposed to black people to stand up and do things for themselves and not always be on somebody else's agenda.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying. It's not anti-white. It is pro-black, pro-Asian, pro-poor. You know, the Democratic Party, I don't think, will follow the agenda of the Republican Party. What do you say about that? They have their own agenda. They deal with their own circumstances. So it's not anti-white. It is pro-black. And with the two of us strengthening each other as opposed to one of us following the other, we've got a better situation and a stronger situation. All my life, I was the only black in a situation. I was the only black in the General Corps. I was the only black teaching at Northwestern University. So I understand how to deal with that. All I'm trying to do is put us in a position so we can contribute and not have to always keep our hand out.
All right. Question over here. Yes, tell me.
So my question is, so throughout history, black women, we care for our black men so much, like when they used to lynch you all, we was there like, no, don't do that, don't do that. But now, we get like so free, and you run off to be with a white woman, like.
Well, I don't answer that question. My position, of course, is that whatever your preference is, that's your preference. And I respect that, as a matter of fact. That doesn't mean that I don't recognize and respect the history of the contribution that the black woman has made. But if I'm going to be free to make my choice, let me make my choice. I would rather see that situation than to see what is happening on the west side and south side of Chicago between young black men and other black people. So it's a matter of choice. If you disagree with it, you have a right to disagree with it.
That's right.
But again, let the choice be made by the person who's making the choice. That's what I think.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Yes.
Thank you for coming, and I appreciate it. I'd like to say that we all have to understand our past history in order to move forward. The situation with the monuments, it's eliminated a lot of the previous issues in our lives. Now, I come from a situation where I am Lithuanian and I'm German. As a Lithuanian, we have had Lithuania for almost 40-some years was extinct. If you do not know your history, you will lose way of the dynasty. I also come, like I said, from Germany, where Heil Hitler and all that other things going on is also part of my life. I thank God I understand where my past is, and I am now able to understand, appreciate, and love all my fellow men.
I appreciate those comments. Thank you very much. But let's tell the whole history. Don't make Robert E. Lee a villain and celebrate Thomas Jefferson. I'm sorry, I mean, what the history is, Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner. And when his illicit relationship with Sally Henning, not only was he a slave owner, but do you realize that during that time, the enslaved chattel people were considered property? So that he was involved in a relationship with a part of his property. But it's okay if that's what you want to do, but tell the full story. George Washington was a slave owner. Tell the full story. But again, the reason I'm talking about the domestic refugee movement being originated among blacks, there are black people who want to change Washington Park's name. Oh no. The Christians say, no, that's the father of the country, but he was a slave owner. Thomas Jefferson and all. So if you're going to tell the story, tell the full story. And incidentally, sister, they lynched not only black men, but black women and children. I say to my young brothers and sisters about Black Lives Matter and Black Deaths Matter. During chattel slavery, there was rarely a chattel slave person killed because they were a part of the assets of the slave master. So black lives really mattered then, and black deaths really mattered then. R.B. Wells will teach you that the reason that they had the lynching was because it was after the Emancipation Proclamation.
Well,
because there were so many blacks in so many counties, in so many areas, they wanted to thin them out by lynching. And then, of course, they migrated. We did. I didn't. I came here in the military to Chicago. We left Jim Crow, came to Chicago, and found education slavery, economic slavery, political slavery. I didn't have the right to vote in Alabama unfettered. They had the right to vote in Chicago for a watermelon, for ham, for a bottle of wine, for $5 and crumbs. So that the same system in Jim Crow that I lived under was imported to Chicago and called a different name. The first case that I was involved in the United States Attorney's Office was a contract buyers league, where with panic peddling, they forced whites, great number of them Jewish families, out of these small homes, saying that blacks were going to move in, the property value would go down. And then they would bring in a brother who would, I guess I shouldn't call him a brother, who would move in, and of course then white people would flee, and they would depress the cost of the property. So they cheated the white families. Then they would sell that same property to black people at 3 to 4 times more. So they cheated the black people. What is America's God? America's God is money. So we have to call it out the way it is, but tell me the full story. Don't give me part of the story. So why is it that they are predatory lenders on the west side of Chicago and south side of Chicago, where you can borrow money, but sometimes the interest rate is up to 300%? Why isn't that being eliminated? Why is it that there are people in Cook County Jail languishing because they don't have $50? Dr. Willie Wilson helped to point that out. That bail system is wrong. I know some people who spent 2 or 3 years in Cook County Jail because they couldn't come up with $1,000 for bail.
well,
And help me, Lou, that time served in pretrial confinement does not go to a sentence. It does not take off the sentence. Sometimes it does, Lou Joseph, a criminal lawyer. What I'm saying is, poor people have been exploited throughout this country. What we are asking now in this movement, originated by us, is let's do something about these people trapped in these areas who can't get out. And challenge them. If they don't move, they don't do anything. I think there's an election in 2018. I think there's an election in 2019. I think there's an election in 2020. Use the buck and the ballot.
Yes, sir. That's true.
You have a question, my brother?
Yeah, I had a question. Now, oh, you have to the camera, my camera shy. Oh, yeah, I had a question. You know, I hear a lot of things about Black Lives Matter, you know, and we kill it. I'm from Inglewood, but I live in Edgewater now. Our community is so close, everybody know one another in our community. But my point I was making is, what is the purpose of Black Lives Matter? Can the killers still going on? They could do a little bit more of what they do.
Well, everybody has an opportunity to participate, and this is the way they participate. At least they are not spectators.
Right.
Yes, I believe they.
Their own. That's happening. A lot of people with a lot of controversy about it. But again, I mentioned Black Lives Matter not in the sense of the movement, but because Black lives do matter and Black deaths.
All right.
All right.
But what about the thousands of us who are doing nothing?
Yes, sir.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's the issue. Well, TV and the internet and Facebook or whatever that is. I say speeches over and over again. I don't care how smart your smartphone is or how sophisticated your computer is, you still can't download freedom. So all I'm saying is, don't spend your time criticizing people who are trying to do something. Do something yourself. Get involved yourself. Stop being a spectator. You know, and I appreciate your having that opinion.
Do you think that they should draft them how they used to do? You all make y'all go to the Army when you turn 18. You think they should bring that back, make them go to the Army if they want to kill?
It's not going to resolve the problem. We need, and I guess this is getting into my speech for Congressman Danny Davis. We need to examine why the gun has replaced the family. The gun has replaced the parents. The gun has replaced the pastors. The gun has replaced the schools. What is it that we need? Don't misunderstand me. I'm not getting into this situation where you shouldn't police as long as the policing is fair, as long as it's just. But we need to answer the question whether or not some young black men have become addicted to the gun.
Well,
not excusing them for what they do, but if it's an addiction, then we need to try to find a cure. That's what they're doing with opioid. Billions of dollars are being spent to find cures. I just want us to have the full range of consideration that's given everybody else. That's all. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yes, Miss Malcolm.
Attorney Town, when you mentioned that under slavery, rarely was black person outright killed because that black life represented an asset. I wanted you to comment about reparations, and you think it's an idea that we should also be considering in terms of organizing around.
Yes, a simple yes. Yes, I mean, not only did the South have cheap labor, they had free labor.
that's right.
Notice the word I used. Notice the phrase I used. I didn't just use slavery. I used chattel slavery. You see, slavery by definition is simply where one person owns another person. Chattel slavery is where the person who is owned becomes property. And for those people who want to know the history of how blacks were viewed with the Constitution and what have you, read Roger V. Taney's decision in 1857 and the Dred Scott decision. Now let me put you on the spot. Let me ask a question. How many of you have read the Emancipation Proclamation? Wait a minute. You in the church. You in the church. How many of you have read the Emancipation Proclamation?
Yes, sir. I read it.
In the last 6 months? How many of you have read the 13th Amendment? In the last 6 months? How many of you have read the 14th Amendment? In the last 6 months? How many of you have read Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the United States Constitution? Don't even know what that is. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but it's right in the Constitution, but you don't read it. How many of you have read the Declaration of Independence? In the last 6 months? How many of you have read the Constitution in the last 6 months? These are the documents they're talking about every day. These are the documents that they're talking about on television, on CNN, and talking about, and most people talk about it don't know anything about what they're talking about. In the Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln did not free the slaves.
No, he did not.
He turned a few of them loose in counties and parishes that were in rebellion against the Union. Millions of blacks were left in chattel slavery. And so how do you get free if you're not also given the right to vote? How are you free if you don't have 40 acres and a mule? How are you free when it's still against the law to teach you to read and write? That's our responsibility, to teach that history to our children, but teach the whole history, not just a little part of it. Now, I read the Constitution. I read it yesterday, but you know what? That's what I do. And Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 said in the Constitution of the United States of America that all people not taxed except Native Americans for the purpose of apportionment and taxation shall be considered 3/5 of a person. Oh, you heard it. It's there. But again, you can't take your history from television.
No, you can't.
Or from the internet. Or you can't take your history from these commentators who would know everything about everything. But all I'm saying is, in this fight, in this struggle, and we continue, one of the greatest weapons that we have is knowledge. Let's welcome Congressman Danny Kenyatta Davis. And Congressman, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'm worn out. I'm old now. Y'all taking advantage. This is elder abuse. Pastor Jakes, thank you so very much, and thank you. I enjoyed being with you, and I'll come back again.
Let's give Attorney Tom another big hand. We have truly learned a lot, and I want to again thank all of you that marched today with us on this historic day, this historic weekend, and want to again thank Eric Thomas for his wonderful music. I want to thank the two persons in wheelchairs that actually marched with us by wheel. Come on, raise your hand, Jake. I want to thank, it's not often that you have such a wonderful mixture, but we want to thank Dave Ramsey and her friend from China and her husband and others that participated. Harold Bailey, Harold Davis, thank you again for getting it out on the radio. Danny Davis, thank you for getting it out on your TV show. thank you so much, WVON, for what you did, and we appreciate all of you for your support. Now, there's a very nice young lady who is in the back. Would you stand up, Sister Sharon? And we're going to ask Bishop Johnson if he would come at this time, because we're going to hear what he has to say, and hopefully you will participate.
I hope just going to get back to my bishop, that I'm now a bishop, amen. I don't want to get exercise out of Chicagoland, amen. Amen. I love my big brother. I appreciate what I've heard. I was just telling Bishop Jakes, the real bishop, that I want to help him, the real bishop, I want to help him drag some young folks to an audience like this, multiplied times 100. I participated, I think, last winter in Congressman's office with Nikki Harvey, and we were dealing with police community and other social issues, but we need to, I like the way I forced my children to listen to me about my great-grandfather and my grandfather, because if it was left up to them, they will listen to their teachers and the internet only, and not realize that they had a past, and they're standing on shoulders of people who have paid many prices, amen?
All right.
Many prices.
Amen.
And, you know, we're better together. But we have to actually get off the line, and as the attorney said, we can't fight online, we got to fight in person. Amen?
Amen. Amen.
So at that point, I want you to help me take care of this service. I want to raise an offering. We all believe in it because we're here. We walked. Was it 5 miles or just one?
5.
Well, my mind says 2, but my body says 5. But I'm going to start this offering wall for $60. And listen, this is something to believe in. It's not just this house that needs the light bill paid, but the next time we come together, there's going to be flyers, there's going to be airtime, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. It can't be done on looks. At least not my looks, amen?
Amen.
So if there's someone who will meet me, his sister, if there's someone who will meet me where I am, I'm a Church of God in Christ preacher. We believe in raising money. Amen. Come on, say praise the Lord. We believe in raising money. Money. Listen, I wish I would have brought my tape recorder. I'm going to get it. But I'm telling you, I'm going to quote you.
You're not going to pay me?
I'm going to quote you. I'm going to quote you. And I'm going to quote you. Listen. This is a man after my own heart. He come with a check already written out. Come on, let's say amen for him. That's $100. That's a father in the community. Please, if you can. You may not be able to do the 100, but you can do something. Your 100 in your pocket may have a different decimal point on it, but it's the best that you can do. Amen?
Amen.
I think Bishop Jakes, and I appreciate the way he prays, and I appreciate the way he listens to the community. I appreciate him not just closing his eyes and just driving his car home and just eating his food in his house and just worrying about his family and just worrying about his bills and just his family and just his issue and just his health care and just his children and his family. Amen? Yeah. Hey, come on, give a hand clap. I appreciate him just not worrying about his oxygen. Now that he's strengthened himself, he's now trying to strengthen us as we strengthen others. Please take this $100 check out of my hands. This is what you call ministry outside the walls, amen?
Superintendent, this $20 from a Baptist.
Well, we're going to love that Baptist preacher anyway. We're going to love him real good. He is my friend and my brother. Reverend, if you can, is anybody else? I don't want to miss nobody. Dr. Parker, would you please bless this?
You know, praise
Praise the Lord. Let us pray. Father God, we come before you to say we love you, we honor you. We honor you. We ask you to bless this offering for its intended, that it go into the direction that you need to do for your work and your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Let's say amen for Bishop Jakes as he returns, or am I giving it back to you? Pardon my manners. Let's say amen for the attorney.
Amen. I told y'all this is my neighborhood, and this is a rare occasion in one of the few neighborhoods in the whole world where your congressman will come by and see you face to face any time of day, night. I have never, and I have said this all over the country, I've had a chance to speak all over the country. I have never seen a congressman with this degree of loyalty, commitment, presence.
Yes, sir.
And not only will I stay a few blocks from here, I stay around the corner from his office, so when he don't want to see me, I come by and see him. But he is the greatest congressman in the United States Congress. I am extraordinarily and exceptionally proud to say this is my congressman, and I want to bring him up, and I want you to give him a warm round of applause. Congressman Danny Davis.
Well, I really didn't come to say anything at all, but I'm delighted to be here, and I'm glad that I caught the end of TNT. I didn't hear the rest, but I already know it was exciting. I didn't have to hear it because Tom is, quite frankly, one of the most eloquent, most passionate, most accurate orators that I know or have ever seen. And I've been all over the country and all over the world. And I have never seen anybody tell the story of the history of people's struggle more accurately.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank Paul Jakes for staying on the wall. When you talk about loyalty, Paul could have moved out of this building many times. Matter of fact, I remember one time he had a big church on the south side of Chicago. Matter of fact, I was at the installation service when he was installed. I was also at the excavation service when he left. But he ain't never really wanted to be nowhere other than where his father was and where he grew up. It was on 104th in the hospital. And the church was paid for. And there was a member of the church who took care of anything that other people didn't have. And he took care of it himself. And Paul called me one day and said, I'm leaving. I said, you must be out of your mind. He said, well, everything's fine, but I just got to go back to my roots. Back to the west side of Chicago, where it was then old St. Paul. I am just pleased to see so many giants together at one time. Many of them I've worked with, known them. We've been through many struggles together. Jane Ramsey, Monica Faith, Stewart, and all of these folks, all of us. Matter of fact, this young man's daddy and I used to march and demonstrate and do all the things that you do. Matter of fact, I never will forget one meeting we was having, and the fellow from Shell Oil Company was there, and a guy named Samuel Mason Carter was there. Reverend Samuel Mason Carter, who was the pastor of Clare Christian United Methodist Church. And we were trying to keep the oil company from building a service station. And so Reverend Carter, who had a great big cigarette lighter, because he smoked a pipe, he gets up and say, Mr. Sherrill, you can go ahead. He was tattooed. He stuttered when he talked. He was most eloquent. He says, I met some boys out there on the street the other day, and I declare that they told me if a service station went on that block, and he pulled his cigarette lighter out, the flame jumped this way, and he said, that's what they're going to do. Ain't no service station. There's no service station on the corner of Roosevelt Road and Kent. And so I've been to so much activity this week until I'm just bubbling over. Honest to goodness. Jason Irwin had several thousand people out in the park for his back to school yesterday. Walter Burnett had 7,000, several thousand, and they were giving out book bags to every kid who wanted one. And today I've been to 2 or 3 places putting out flyers. I just left the South Side.
Yes, sir. That's not fine.
I'm putting out flyers today. Lou, come out, what I do. I've been out all day with my crew putting out flyers because we've got a big conference coming up September the 8th and 9th. And if you want to hear Tom Todd again, he's going to be the keynote that Saturday morning. And our goal is to have 1,000 men and boys at the conference. And so it's good to have ideas and things like that, but it's also good to work. And you got to do the work because you work while it's day. When night cometh, no man can work. So I just believe in practicing what I preach. I don't ask guys to go out and put flyers out. I say, come on guys, I want y'all to go with me. And we're going to go out and put out the flyers so folks will know about what we're going to have. And if they don't know about it, they can't come. So we've been out all day until just right now. I did have to stop because I had promised my granddaughter I was going to see her today. And so I went by and she was kind of excited because she had told me the other day she had gone to the mosque. And how excited she was. And she even said she had a little brochure laying on the table. She said, you know, I heard all about Malcolm X. And said, you know, I think I like Malcolm X's approach better than I do Dr. King. she said, and I thought now I got to sit down and explain to her the difference between Dr. King's approach, Malcolm's approach, and the difference between Dr. King being in the South, mostly rural, where the Klan wore sheets, and that Malcolm come from Detroit in New York, where people may have thought and acted like the Klan, but they wore ties. And so she got a good bit of history in terms of if there is a difference. She understood that they may have used different approaches, but they were both trying to get to the same place.
The judge and judges and attorneys here, anyone that is in the law area, we want you to, amen, just raise your hand again. Miss Lori Roper, would you stand and just say hello? She's a candidate for judge. She's one of the next judges. Thanks. And State Representative, former State Representative Monica Faith Stewart. Say hello.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's really wonderful to have people who will stand up